8 months of silence ended with a phone call that wasn't meant to check on me or her grandkids. It was a demand to liquidate my husband's life work. My name is Evelyn, and I'm 35. 3 weeks ago, my mother rang me for the first time since Christmas. Not to ask about my daughter's fever last winter or to hear about the organic farm we'd poured our souls into. She called because the family fortune was evaporating, and they needed $3 million in 14 days. The same family who photoshopped me out of the reunion picture because my husband wore work boots. The same mother who told her bridge club I'd lowered my standards. The same sister whose husband laughed in Ethan's face and called him a glorified weed puller. Now they were begging. Before I take you inside my mother's 65th birthday dinner, where secrets detonated and I finally stopped being the family doormat, hit that like button if you believe respect should be earned, not demanded by blood. Drop a heart emoji in the comments if you're listening right now. I read every single one. Let me rewind to where the fracture started. 10 years ago, I was Victoria Ashford's favorite showpiece, Columbia Business School, rising analyst at a Manhattan private equity firm. The kind of resume that made my mother's voice go velvet when she introduced me at her garden parties. My daughter Evelyn, she'd coo, managing millions already. She'll be running a hedge fund by 40. I believed the script. I was wearing 4-inch heels and climbing the glass tower, engaged to a banker with the right last name and a trust fund. Then I took a weekend off in the Hudson Valley and bought strawberries from a man whose hands were stained with soil, not ink. Ethan wasn't polished. His flannel was frayed. But when he explained how he rotated crops to heal the earth, his voice held more passion than I'd heard in a decade of boardroom presentations. I kept coming back, week after week. The first time I brought him home, my mother examined him like a bug under glass. "So, Ethan," she said, ice clinking in her gin and tonic, "what exactly do you do all winter when there's numbered dirt?" He smiled without a trace of offense. "I plan the spring, ma'am, and read a lot of agricultural engineering journals." My sister Clarissa's husband, Brad, choked on his craft beer. "Agricultural engineering," he repeated like it was a punchline. "That's a thing." It was the first of thousands of tiny humiliations. Our engagement party should have been joyful. My mother insisted on hosting at her Connecticut colonial, all marble foyers and silent servants. Ethan wore the only suit he owned. He'd pressed it himself. The crease was slightly crooked, and I loved him more for it. Brad and Clarissa arrived 45 minutes late in a new Mercedes convertible. Brad made sure everyone noticed. "Just a little partner bonus," he announced to the room. When he shook Ethan's hand, his eyes traveled down to the scuffed leather shoes. "Those'll be great for tractor work, I guess." A few guests snickered. Then my mother raised her glass for a toast. "To Evelyn and Ethan," she said, and I stupidly let hope flicker inside my chest. "My youngest has always been unconventional. Let's hope this farming phase doesn't last too long." She gestured vaguely at Ethan, dismissing his entire existence. I looked at my father. He was staring into his whiskey, disappearing like he always did. But my grandmother, Nana Rose, reached under the table and squeezed my knee. "I like him," she whispered. "He's got kind eyes." That night, lying in a guest room that didn't feel like home, I decided. I would leave Manhattan. I would marry the farmer. And I would stop bleeding for people who only wanted me to fit their frame. Vermont saved us. We bought 200 acres near Burlington, rolling hills, a farmhouse with a porch that sagged in the middle and more dreams than money. Ethan worked from dark to dark. He built greenhouses, studied soil microbes, negotiated with organic distributors. I learned alongside him how to prune apple trees, how to read a weather front, how to feel proud of calluses. Within 4 years, we were supplying 15 farmers' markets and 3 top restaurants in Burlington. Then came Sophie. She arrived in April, screaming like she already knew the world needed changing. 2 years later, Henry followed, quiet, watchful, with Ethan's steady eyes. I had never been happier. But there was a piece of our life I never discussed, something Ethan had asked me to keep private. During our first winter, while I thought he was just reading agricultural journals by the fire, He was actually finalizing patents, taking calls with investors, building something he'd started years ago before the farm before me. Ethan had a PhD from Cornell in sustainable agricultural systems. His doctoral research on precision irrigation had attracted venture capital before he walked away from the startup grind, before he chose dirt over data rooms. Until he quietly returned to it. He built his company without fanfare. No press releases, just steady innovation, real technology that helped farmers use less water and grow more food. They don't deserve to know, he told me once, meaning my family, and I don't need their approval. I never pushed, but I always wondered what would happen if they found out. The call came at 10:40 on a Tuesday night. I was half asleep, one hand on Henry's back after his nightmare. My phone buzzed. Clarissa's name, a name that hadn't appeared in 8 months. She was sobbing, not the pretty tears she used to cry at Daddy for a new car. These were ragged animal sounds. Evelyn, please, we're drowning. I stepped into the hall. What happened? Brad made terrible trades. He lost everything. The house, the cars, our savings, Mom's retirement, all of it. How much? 3 million. We need 3 million in 2 weeks or Mom loses her house too. She used it as collateral. My stomach dropped. She did what? She believed in him, we all did. Her voice curdled. You have land, hundreds of acres, just sell a piece. It's just dirt, Evelyn. I heard Ethan behind me. He stood in the bedroom doorway, face unreadable. I'll call you tomorrow. Tomorrow, we don't have. I hung up. But as I stood in that dark hallway, one phrase echoed. Brad had said something strange earlier in the call. Your husband's company was supposed to crash. It was supposed to. What did that mean? I couldn't sleep. After Ethan went back to bed, I sat at the kitchen table with my laptop, the glow harsh on my face. I typed Brad's name, adding hedge fund and investigation. The results loaded slowly. Then I saw it. Bradford Mitchell departing Mitchell Capital amid internal review. 6 months old. The article said mutual decision, corporate code for getting pushed out. I kept digging. A finance forum mentioned him in a thread about catastrophic short positions. Someone had posted, anyone tracking Mitchell's bet against that AgSmart startup? Dude went all in. Absolute suicide mission. AgSmart. My hands went cold. I scrolled contacts until I found Jessica Chen, an old colleague from my analyst days who now worked in compliance. She answered groggy. Evelyn, it's late. I know, I need a favor. Brad Mitchell, she laughed without humor. Everyone knows Brad Mitchell now, the guy's a cautionary tale. What happened? Massive short position, he bet against some ag-tech company, bet his entire net worth that they'd fail. Stock went up 340%. He got obliterated. Jessica yawned. Whoever runs that company must be laughing. Brad bet everything on them collapsing. Poetic justice. Thanks, Jess, I owe you. You owe me brunch. I hung up and walked slowly back to the bedroom. Ethan was awake, watching me. You found out. It wasn't a question. I sat on the edge of the bed. How long have you known? He rubbed his eyes. About 8 months. 8 months, and you didn't tell me. I didn't want to hurt you. He reached for my hand. The quarterly reports showed unusual short activity. I had our CFO trace it. Brad's name came up. He bet against my company. Our company, I thought. He corrected me once, our company. All those years of sneering comments. The weed puller jokes. The way Brad looked at Ethan like he was something stuck to his shoe. He wanted you to fail. He needed me to fail. Ethan's voice stayed calm, but I heard steel beneath. He hated that you chose me over whatever life he thought you deserved. Someone like him, so he tried to profit from destroying us. And you just let it happen. What was I supposed to do? Call him and gloat, warn him he was about to lose everything? Ethan shook his head. The best response to people like Brad is to keep building. Let them destroy themselves. My phone buzzed. A text from my mother. We need to talk. Come to my birthday dinner. It's important. I showed Ethan. Do you want to go? I did, but not for the reasons she expected. The next morning, while Ethan made breakfast, I searched again. This time I typed his company name, AgSmart Technologies. The Forbes article appeared on the first page, dated 4 months ago. The Cornell PhD who left Silicon Valley to revolutionize farming. I clicked through. There was Ethan, not in flannel, but in a simple sweater, standing in a greenhouse full of sensor equipment. The photo credit listed a San Francisco studio. He'd flown out and never mentioned it. The article detailed his journey. Cornell doctorate at 27, offers from major tech companies he declined, years of quiet development on precision agriculture, and then this. AgSmart Technologies, now valued at approximately $52 million, has transformed water efficiency for small farms. Founder Ethan Brennan remains notably private, preferring to let results speak. $52 million. My husband, the man my mother thought couldn't provide. He'd built something worth $52 million while wearing muddy boots, while driving the same truck from when we met, while raising our children and never needing to prove anything. I saved the article. Jessica called back that afternoon. I found something. You're not going to like it. She'd forwarded a screenshot from an internal trading group chat leaked during Brad's termination. The message was timestamped 8 months ago. I read it 3 times. My brother-in-law's little farm experiment is about to implode. Got inside info. Their tech doesn't scale. I'm going all in on the short. Gonna make a fortune watching him fail. The look on Evelyn's face when they go bankrupt, priceless. The look on my face. He hadn't just wanted Ethan to fail. He'd wanted to watch me suffer, to prove I'd made the wrong choice. And he'd used my mother's money to do it. I saved the email. Then I called my mother. She answered on the first ring. Evelyn, you're coming Saturday. Yes. Good. Her voice softened strategically. We have papers to discuss, very straightforward. Brad's handled everything. Of course he had. I'll be there, Ethan too. A pause. Is that really necessary? Yes, Mom, it is. She sighed, the disappointed exhale I'd heard my whole life. Fine, but please don't make this difficult. We're family. I hung up. Saturday arrived. My mother's 65th birthday. 40 guests, crystal chandeliers, a jazz trio in the corner. The kind of restaurant where appearances mattered more than oxygen. Ethan and I arrived at 7 sharp. He wore a button-down. I wore a simple blue dress. We looked like people who had nothing to prove. My mother met us at the entrance. Her smile was tight. You came, both of you. Happy birthday, Mom. She air-kissed my cheeks and glanced at Ethan like he was furniture. The private dining room held 40 guests, society friends, distant cousins, a few of Brad's nervous-looking former colleagues. And in the corner, Nana rose. She caught my eye and waved, but her expression was worried. Clarissa sat near the head of the table, face blotchy under concealer. Brad sat beside her, jaw clenched, staring at his phone. The main course was cleared when my mother stood and tapped her glass. Thank you all for coming. 65 years, can you believe it? Polite laughter. Then her expression shifted. Tonight, I want to talk about family, about what it means to support each other. My stomach tightened. My youngest daughter has been blessed with a successful little farm, simple but apparently profitable. Little farm, simple, poison wrapped in silk, and right now our family needs her help. A waiter appeared with a leather folder. He placed it in front of me. All she needs to do is sign, my mother said, voice carrying through the silent room. Just a small piece of land to help her mother keep her home. 40 pairs of eyes turned toward me, judgment, expectation. Brad stood, smoothing his expensive jacket. Fair market price, paperwork's all in order. Your husband's land isn't worth much anyway. Your husband's land, not our home, not where we raised our children. Go on, Evelyn. My mother's smile didn't reach her eyes. You won't let your mother become homeless. The trap was set. Whispers started immediately. Poor Victoria. Imagine begging your own daughter. Can you believe she'd hesitate? Clarissa leaned forward. Evelyn's always been selfish. She abandoned us to play farmer's wife. Brad circled closer. Let's be honest. Your husband got lucky with some dirt. The least you can do is share the wealth. That's what family does. The least we can do, I repeated quietly. That's right. I mean, what's he ever contributed? He plants vegetables. My grandmother could do that. Uncomfortable laughter. My father stared at the tablecloth. My mother pressed. So Evelyn, will you sign? Or will you prove to everyone here you never really cared? 10 seconds of silence stretched. Then I stood, but I didn't reach for the pen. Before I answer, I have a question for Brad. His smile faltered. What kind of question? A simple one. I looked directly at him. Can you explain to everyone here exactly how you lost all their money? Pause here for a second. I know this is intense. Before I tell you what happened next, drop a stand in the comments if you think I should fight back. Drop a sign if you think keeping peace matters more. I'm genuinely curious. Back to the restaurant. Brad's face went rigid. That's not relevant. It's completely relevant. You're asking me to give away $3 million. Everyone here deserves to know where the original money went. My mother stepped forward. Evelyn, this isn't the time. When is the time, Mom? After I've signed. Murmurs rippled. Nana Rose leaned forward, eyes sharp. Brad, I continued, you were fired from your fund 6 months ago, weren't you? His jaw tightened. I left voluntarily. That's not what the financial press says. Internal review, termination. I let it hang. But that's not the worst part. You didn't just lose your job. You took Mom's retirement savings and gambled them yourself, didn't you? My mother's champagne flute trembled. He was trying to help. Was he? Or was he betting with your future? The room went silent. Even the jazz trio stopped playing. Brad took a step toward me, voice dropping. You don't know what you're talking about. Actually, I do. I pulled out my phone. I've spent 3 days learning exactly what happened to your fortune, Brad. Want to tell them, or should I? Clarissa started crying. Brad said nothing. So I continued. Brad made what traders call a short position. He bet against a company, bet its stock would crash. If it did, he'd make millions. This is ridiculous, Brad spat. You don't understand finance. I worked on Wall Street for 4 years. I understand fine. I held up my phone and read aloud. My brother-in-law's little farm experiment is about to implode. Got inside info. I'm going all in on the short. Gonna make a fortune watching him fail. The look on Evelyn's face when they go bankrupt, priceless. Gasps scattered through the room. Dead silence. I lowered the phone. Brad didn't just make a bad investment. He specifically targeted my husband's company. He bet everything, including Mom's retirement, on Ethan failing. My mother's face went chalk white. Brad, is this true? He couldn't meet her eyes. I had good information. It should have worked. He wanted us to fail, I said. He wanted to profit from destroying us, not because it was smart business, but because he hated that I chose Ethan over someone like him. Clarissa's sobs grew louder. Guests started gathering their things. And the company, Brad's voice cracked. What happened to the company? It didn't fail, Brad. It grew 340%. You lost everything betting against a company worth $52 million. Now the murmurs changed. Shock, confusion. 52 million, someone whispered. The farmer's company. An older man near the front raised his hand. Wait, what company are we talking about? I opened the Forbes article and handed my phone to the nearest person. Pass this around. The phone moved hand to hand. Faces changed, confusion to disbelief to awe. The Cornell PhD who left Silicon Valley to revolutionize farming. Someone read aloud. AgSmart Technologies valued at 52 million. Founder Ethan Brennan. The name landed like a bomb. Brad grabbed the phone. His hands shook as he stared at the screen, at Ethan in his navy sweater standing in a greenhouse. He's just a farmer. He plants vegetables. Ethan had been silent the whole time. Now he stood, and the room felt smaller. "I am a farmer," he said quietly. "I'm also an engineer with a Cornell PhD. The two aren't mutually exclusive." You could hear breathing. My mother's champagne glass slipped from her fingers and shattered on the marble floor. Nobody moved. From the corner, Nana Rose's voice rang out. "I always said he was the smartest one in this room." Nobody listened. The room erupted. Whispers, exclamations, guests pulling out phones to verify. Brad stood frozen, watching his entire narrative collapse. $52 million. The weed puller was worth $52 million. The chaos settled slowly. Guests found seats again, but the energy had shifted completely. They weren't looking at me with pity anymore. They were looking at my mother. She stood frozen, broken glass at her feet, mascara smearing. "Evelyn," her voice was small. "Please, we're still family." "Whatever Brad did, Mom, I'm not signing anything." "But you have the money. You could." "Yes, I could." I picked up the leather folder and set it aside, untouched. "But this land isn't mine to sell. It's Ethan's legacy for our children, our home. I don't have the right to give that away." Clarissa lifted her tear-streaked face. "So you're just going to let Mom lose everything?" "You spent 7 years telling me I made a mistake. You excluded me from Christmas. You told my nieces I chose poverty. You cut me out of photos because Ethan didn't fit the aesthetic." Victoria flinched. "And now you're asking me to sell our children's inheritance to cover losses from a bet made against us. Think about that." "We didn't know," Victoria whispered. "I didn't know what Brad was doing." "Maybe not the details, but you gave him your retirement money without questions because you believed in his image. You never believed in us." My mother swayed slightly. "Having money doesn't mean I owe it to people who spent 7 years hoping I'd fail." Nobody spoke. The leather folder sat on the table between us, unsigned. Ethan placed his hand on my shoulder and stood. The room went still again. "Mrs. Ashford," his voice carried calm and measured, "I never needed your approval. I stopped expecting it long ago, but I also never wished you harm. Evelyn loves you even when you've made it difficult." He let that settle. "So I want to make something clear. I won't sell our land. That's not negotiable. But I'm willing to help you keep your house." Victoria's head snapped up. "What?" "A personal loan. Enough to cover immediate mortgage payments and give you time to sort out the rest." He paused. "Not 3 million, but enough." Hope flickered across her face. Desperate, grasping hope. "But there are conditions." Brad, skulking near the wall, stiffened. "1, Brad repays every cent with interest over 5 years. Documented, legally binding." Ethan's gaze shifted to my brother-in-law. 2, he gets professional help for gambling, verified attendance. 3, you never ask us for money again, ever. "I'm not taking charity from him," Brad snarled. Ethan didn't blink. "Then don't, but that's the only offer." Clarissa grabbed Brad's arm. "Brad, please." "This is humiliating." He shook her off. "You expect me to take a handout from the guy He stopped, but everyone heard what he didn't say, the guy I tried to destroy. "This isn't revenge," Ethan said quietly. "This is a boundary. Learn the difference." Victoria looked between Brad and Ethan. Pride versus survival written on her face. Brad grabbed his jacket and stormed toward the exit. "This isn't over." Nobody stopped him. Another pause. What just happened in that moment? Ethan offered grace with conditions, and Brad walked. "Do you think he'll come back? Type yes or no in the comments before I finish. And if this story's hitting home, share it with someone who needs to hear it." The restaurant door slammed. For a moment, nobody moved. Then Clarissa let out a broken sob and ran after him, heels clicking on marble. The spell shattered. Guests reached for coats, making excuses. "Lovely party, Victoria." "So sorry." Within 10 minutes, the room was nearly empty. Just family remained. My mother, my father, Nana Rose, Ethan, and me. Broken glass still glittering on the floor. Victoria lowered herself into a chair. She looked older suddenly. Her 65th birthday had become the night her entire social image collapsed. My father moved first. I'm sorry, Evelyn. I turned to him. Robert Ashford stood with hands in pockets, shoulders hunched. I should have said something years ago, when your mother first, he struggled. I was a coward. I let her run everything. I let her push you away. I'm sorry. The apology hung in the air. It's a little late, Dad. I know, his voice cracked, but I'm saying it anyway. Something in my chest loosened. Not forgiveness, but something adjacent. Nana Rose walked over and embraced me. Her arms were thin but strong. I'm proud of you, she whispered. Your grandfather would be too. Behind us, Victoria remained in her chair, staring at the unsigned contract. She hadn't said a word since Brad left. A week later, updates trickled in. Clarissa called first, not to apologize, but to say she and Brad were separating. She'd found hidden credit card statements, debts she never knew. I don't know who I married, she said hollowly. I didn't say I told you so. There was no satisfaction. Victoria sold the Connecticut house. Not because she had to, Ethan's offer still stood, but because she couldn't face the neighbors. Word had spread. She moved to a smaller condo in Hartford. Clean, practical, nothing like the showpiece she'd curated for 40 years. She didn't call. No apology, but no accusations either, just silence. My father surprised me. He called every Sunday. Short conversations at first, awkward. How are the kids? How's the farm? But he kept calling, week after week. For the first time in 7 years, my father was trying. Nana Rose did more than try. She bought a train ticket and showed up on our porch 2 weeks after the party. Suitcase in one hand, cookies in the other. I'm staying a month. I want to know my great-grandchildren properly. Sophie and Henry adored her. She taught them cards, told them stories about their great-great-grandfather's farm, let them help her bake. I watched them one afternoon, Nana laughing as Henry cracked eggs, shells everywhere, and felt something unexpected. Not victory, relief. Late September, I sat on the porch as the leaves turned. Ethan was in the field with the kids, teaching Sophie to check soil moisture. Their laughter carried across the farm like music. 7 years ago, I'd been terrified of losing my family. I'd spent nights wondering if they were right, if I was throwing everything away for a man they'd never respect. I'd been waiting for them to see me, really see me, not the Columbia graduate, not the Wall Street analyst. Just me, Evelyn, with dirt under my fingernails and a man who grew tomatoes and happiness in equal measure. But I'd been waiting for people looking in the wrong direction. You okay? Ethan appeared on the porch steps, Henry on his shoulders, Sophie trailing with wildflowers. Yeah, I smiled. Better than okay. He sat beside me. Sophie climbed onto my lap, presenting flowers. For you, Mama. They're beautiful, baby. Ethan caught my eye. You're thinking about them. A little. I watched the sunset paint the fields gold. I think I'm done waiting. He nodded. Boundaries aren't punishment. They're protection. I couldn't make my mother love me the way I needed. Couldn't force Clarissa past her insecurity. Couldn't fix decades of damage. But I could choose differently. I had Ethan, Sophie, Henry, Nana Rose, and a father who was finally trying. That was enough. That was more than enough. A month later, Nana Rose stayed for Sophie's 6th birthday. We held it on the farm, picnic table covered in wildflowers, homemade cake with lopsided frosting, laughter filling the air. After candles were blown and kids chased fireflies, Nana sat beside me on the porch swing. I have something for you. From her pocket, she pulled a small velvet box. Inside, an antique gold ring with a tiny sapphire. Simple, beautiful. This was my mother's, and her mother's before that. I was saving it for the right moment. Grandma for Sophie. When she's old enough, I want her to have something from the women who came before. I took the box carefully, feeling generations of weight. Your mother may never understand, Nana said softly. She's too caught up in appearances, but I understand, and I'm glad, so glad you chose happiness over approval. I leaned into her, this tiny, fierce woman who'd been my anchor. Thank you, Grandma, for everything. Just keep being yourself, sweetheart, she patted my hand. The ones who matter will find their way to you. The rest, let them go. We sat in comfortable silence, watching fireflies dance across darkening fields. My mother hadn't called. Clarissa was still sorting wreckage, but my father had sent Sophie a birthday card with a check and a note. "I'm sorry I missed so many. I won't miss more." Not a perfect ending, but real, and real was more valuable than perfect could ever be. Boundaries aren't punishment. They're protection for the people who matter and the life you've built. If this story resonated, if you've ever had to choose between keeping peace and keeping self-respect, drop your story in the comments. For more stories like this, check the video in the description. Until next time, take care of yourself and remember, you're allowed to set boundaries even with family, especially with family.